Thank you, everyone. Hi to the dedicated and honorable librarians of University Technical Malacca and all the respective researchers, lecturers, and students. This session is more on about supporting your journey in publishing. And I am Zento, Account Development of Southeast Asia. Basically, I work together with librarians to provide such training and familiarity to researchers to get solutions in terms of publishing. To start with, I'll introduce you to the publishing journey. But before I move deeper, many of you have many motivations to publish. Some may only be a one-time journey where you may envision yourself completing your PhD thesis or master thesis, whereas some have a much greater aspirations. But from the publisher side, ideally, we want to not just support you for a short term, but looking at the longer term where through your journey in publishing, you would acquire fitness, meaning to say, as you continue your professional journey in academia, in research, in science, and if you want to continue to publish, it is getting that level of expertise and familiarity in the whole publishing landscape and to be very resilient no matter the outcome or resources which has been provided. So TA is one of those resources, but other than that, is to also understand the entire publishing process and cycle behind it. So like many of you are probably also already preparing your manuscript, and some of your manuscript is already ready for submission, but it will be good to know and understand the phases behind the submission and before it arrives the peer review. So from the moment you submitted your article, as you can see here, the first layer is called automated check. And automated check means that your manuscript will be screened by an AI in-house tool at Springer Nature together with human augmentation. So there's a human expert working with the AI tool to screen your manuscript whether it is similar to any other research or manuscript out there that is available online, and to screen its entire standards. And secondly, after that, it will go through a deeper quality check in terms of your writing, the structure of your paper, for example, and even images or tables. So for example, if there are any images or tables which are not in high definition, they are absolutely low in quality, highly pixelated, there is a high likelihood it will not even go through the editor or for peer review. And secondly, if there are any terms whereby the terms and 80% of your manuscript contains terms which is not relevant to the subject field. For example, if you're submitting to a journal of material science, but your manuscript is not about business or management, but you tend to include more than 80% terms coming from the business or management field, then there is some lack of alignment in your entire manuscript and the objective. So it will not go through the editor as well. So after passing through the first two stages, then that's where the judge, which is the editor-in-chief, who will know who you are. He will acknowledge your entire background. He will ensure that you are, in fact, for example, a real author itself. You're not an AI or robot submitting the manuscript. And to do this often is to make yourself known in a way that you have an OSCIT ID. So editor will cross-check with your OSCIT ID, which is a scholar academic ID that is very common for all researchers there. And then he will pass the manuscript to the peer review team. Now, not to worry much about the editor phase, because all he's doing is just to also make sure that whatever decision comes from the first two process, there are no error in terms of the first two process. And he is going to be the judge and also to evaluate who he can pass the manuscript to which peer review, because he knows which subject matter expert can truly assess your manuscript. So the peer review, which is the subject matter experts, they are blinded review. They don't know your identity, neither they know your OSCID ID. This is to ensure there is non-discriminatory in publishing and there is no any bias behind it. So it's very fair and equal. They will solely assess based on the subject matter expert and the relevance to the journal. So after the peer review and editor has discussed internally, sometimes peer review might not come directly to you first. They will go back to the editor. Hi, we have found this manuscript to be A, B, C, and there will be an internal discussion between editor and peer review as well before they email back the decision to you. So once you get the decision, then only you will be managing or discussing in liaison with a post-publication team from Springer Nature. Springer Nature will contact you via email. We have formatted your manuscript according to this journal guidelines. Please confirm everything is good to go for final publication. So ideally, throughout this process, you don't really have to worry about the formatting. Only 5% of the journals in Springer Nature may require a template. If it's announced in the website, there is a template and you have to download it to follow the template. But majority of our journal paper, if there is no template there, and if the submission guideline does not make any precise comment on the formatting, all you need to do is ensure that your entire manuscript is well formatted in the sense that there is not showing a large variation. So keep all your headings the same font size, same font type. Keep your paragraphs also the same colors, only use black colors for the font, and same font size for all paragraphs. So you could see why annually 2.3 million submissions, only 482,000 articles are published. In fact, some authors, they may miss this step, the publication part, whereby decision has been made, but the authors neither reacted to the feedback given by the peer review or editor. They either don't want to make a decision to continue, or when it comes to the publication, when the manuscript is already formatted by Springer Nature team, sometimes they mislook. They didn't look at the email that the manuscript has been formatted and please accept those format within a certain timeline. So it is also very important to be careful once your manuscript gets a decision to act actively on it. And next, like what Ken has said, TA covers a portion of your benefit and access to a large portfolio of journals, up to 2,305 titles. So you could also check out open access article. And these are some of the front cover of the journal where you could have access to, recommended to read and review and to cite, as because these journals are not just interdisciplinary, suited to all faculty, but they are considered as a high-performing journal, whereby it's regularly publishing up-to-date articles and is also having a fairly moderate high impact factor. On the other hand, outside of the TA, if any one of you are more curious about the portfolio of Springer Nature, we also house the leading portfolio known as the Nature Portfolio. And you will be surprised to know you may not necessarily be just behind a subscription model, but there are some open access articles for all these nature titles that you could explore and you could also cite in your manuscript. Because nature portfolio journals are also very high quality and contain up-to-date data. There's also ebooks. Can we cite ebooks? Can we cite conference paper? Yes, you can. That in Springer Nature, when you publish your manuscript with us, when we check your bibliography, we do not segregate that, oh, you only need to cite journal paper. That's not true. As long as there is a DOI and that article and content is discoverable, you can cite it in your bibliography. And these are also some of the ebooks that are available online, and they are highly recommended to read. Please note this slide will also be given to you as a copy for you to navigate. And to check whether the article is indexed in a certain database or platform, all you need to do is go to the Springer Nature link website and scroll all the way down, all the way south. And you would find this example here, the abstract and indexing information. Additionally, all, or I would say majority of Springer Nature content has also been captured in the SIMAGO website. SIMAGO is an international website which lists out all the indexing for worldwide journals. You can also use that platform. Some overview before I jump deep into the tips of publishing is because I want to motivate you as well. Whether you are an early researcher or advanced researcher, is that at your university now, using our Springer Nature in-house insights database system, we can see the exact total publication with Springer Nature in the portfolio of journal content only. So there are some that are in Gold OA, there are some in non-OA, and probably that is also due to the funding reasons. Nevertheless, we can see here a trend that in your university, all faculty of engineering and computer science have been actively publishing, which leads to 351 articles so far. And we hope that with this TA, we see a more variety coming from other faculties and departments as well. And your trend will continue to increase or maybe supersede the COVID period, year 2020. So like what Ken has said, 396 people, meaning users, have downloaded one of the first article that has been published through the TA. In fact, myself, who also is a reader, I love to read, and a researcher in the past, I have to applaud Dr. Zaini and his team, because I do find this paper very technical, and there's also an image there. So I think for the field of material science, we would see the impact will continue to grow as months and years comes by. And another one is a paper on robotic and ground vehicle. There's also a very interesting image in this article, well done. And up to now, there is 625 access. And between these two articles, you cannot necessarily make a judgment that one article is better than the other. As a publisher, I try to encourage researchers, authors not to evaluate such a way, because again, like this one is published in Springer Nature Computer Science versus a very narrow journal, which is this one is a Journal of Material Science. So Springer Nature Computer Science is more holistic, it's a more wide subject journal, and not only that, it is one of the portfolio journals that is very trending now, not just in the technology or computer science, but from Springer Nature itself. Because ideally, I think there are also slightly more marketing happening behind the background for Springer Nature Computer Science, which led to an extra 300 for this article. Nevertheless, both articles are well established, and congratulations. And just to also share you some case study, if you're interested. As you know, many scholars today are so excited looking for who is the top 2% scientist in the world, which was recently announced 2 months ago. And this is one of the actual top 2% scientists consecutively for 3 years in a specific field. And yes, he's also an external editor in Springer Nature, but I thought it would be interesting to showcase how he get to where he is today. And we could see some relation there, that his performance, the increase in his Google Scholar performance, his H-index performance, his citations performance could be linked to his large publication in OA and Gold OA. And yes, majority of this is in Springer Nature, 85%. And some common scenarios in your research. So now we are on the next section of the presentation. Firstly, before I go deeper, just to share with you, if you have find that some sections of my presentation may be too basic, but it is also for some of your students or the early researchers. But on the other hand, is to give you that perspective of how to get your manuscript not get retracted at the future or potentially to be subject to retraction. Because now in the publishing landscape and also in the science world, there are also other institutions and what we call people who are monitoring all the research papers that are being published. And this is not really in the control of us as Springer Nature, but it is due to research integrity. There are credible authorities that have that role to set the validity of a research paper after they publish. So ideally, from the publisher side, we are here to give you that solution and support and tips that can hopefully, when you even submit your paper, it will not get retracted at all. So firstly, like what Ken has said, even under the TA model or whatever model you decide to publish your paper, you may start to discuss who you can collaborate with. And as long the other co-author has granted rights, and as long their affiliation continue to exist. Again, this one is also important to prevent retraction because there are some papers 5 years, 10 years down the road, it was investigated that they were collaborating with co-authors, maybe from another region or another university, where the institute or has bankrupt or the research center has completely closed. So they raised some form of scrutiny. Then why was the research being conducted? So ensure that your collaborators are, firstly, if you decide to go outside of UTeM, you want to invite other co-authors, firstly, do get their full permission, document it, and acknowledge the full existence of their affiliation. Yes, you can use all kinds of content, no matter if it's a monograph, a thesis, or textbook in your manuscript. And to find this content, just go to Springer Nature link website. But one of another tip is that whether a content has a high citation or even a 0 citation, you can still use it. That does not mean that a content haven't been cited before, you should not cite it. Next is when you do find any interesting content that you intend to assess, analyze, and to include in your literature review, the first thing that you can do is also contact the author of that paper. What you can do is clarify with the author about the content of their paper, get more insights about their paper before you transfer it to your manuscript. But ideally, that opens up a door of opportunity. Firstly, you may get him as a potential peer next time, or you make yourself known much better in the field. Because academic and publishing also goes by referral, it goes by word of mouth, and some authors who are already published there, they have a very wide peer of networks. Some are editors, some are peer reviewer. So internally, they do discuss regularly, like what is the trending article being researched now. So if you open up that communication with any authors when you are discussing a certain article before you insert it into your manuscript for your bibliography, that not just enriches your understanding of the paper, but it gives you a better opportunity to raise your reputation in the field. Next is when you do go to link.springer.com to find your content, some suggestions is that can solve the problems of researcher. Sometimes you hit a wall, you don't know what else to research. Or maybe the review come back and say that, oh, your journal does not fit my aim and scope. So you may question, hey, I think my journal or paper was written based on your subject, but why is it you think reviewer is not fitting the aim and scope? So sometimes the journal could have been moving towards a series or collection in a particular month. So to know this is to look at the journal topical collection announcement. You can scroll all the way down, and that also will show you the indexing. Or you could also, sorry, I missed one slide, but I will explain it here. There is also journal updates. Journal updates announced in the journal page. Just look for journal updates. It will show you the announcement of what kind of topic that journal is looking for. And when you search for the content, it is recommended to use search operator or Boolean string like and the upper comma, because that refines the content results that can save your time a lot in filtering out relevant content that is related to your article. This is the example that I wanted to show earlier, the journal updates and topical collection call for paper, which does not just indicate that, hi authors, please submit to this journal. It indicates, hi author, this is the type of topic and theme we are looking for at this current period, and we would give priority to. So it may not necessarily either mean they would fully reject if your paper is not aligned to that scope, but what it would ideally suggest is that at this stage, that journal is primarily looking for themes or topic focus in that area for that certain period. So more priority would be given. This is another example. For example, a simple paper that has a SDG, or even a journal in engineering is looking for different type of research methods and analysis in their field. Some guidance in research and writing. These are the main three key aspects that needs to be undertaken when you want to submit your manuscript or even before you submit. Firstly is your title. Try to keep it not more than 20 words, not exceeding 20 words, and keep the title as concise and precise with the variables that you have used in your manuscript that you have measured. And then include keywords which are regular keywords in that subject field. So it's quite dangerous to use keywords which are not existing at all in the subject field. Why? It's firstly two things. It may raise some concerns from the peer review and editor side because it is a completely new type of paper that maybe there is not even one subject matter expert that can review that paper. Or number two, when your manuscript gets published, after it gets published, bear in mind you want to have users, people who have access and will download the paper. And some of these users which are accessing your article or downloading your article, when they search, it is going through a keyword channel. So that keyword is like a highway that enables your manuscript to also to be discoverable. So try to use keywords that regularly exist in that subject or topic. And thirdly, images and table, ensure that they are not just high in definition, but it is as accurate to how it was generated from the raw data. Meaning to say, if you run your analysis or generate the charts, the graph, the illustration, the curve, the dots, it has to be backed up by evidence of the raw data. It has to align. So meaning to say, if there's any slight alteration in the charts, in the graph, and the raw data is not supporting it, then that manuscript will not be accepted. So in terms of writing, there are also some key aspects. Master the art of clarity and being very straightforward in your writing. No need to go so long-winded, because peer review and editor, they love it when there's a very clear manuscript, very straightforward, and it also saves their time. No jargon languages, avoid repetition, no need to always keep repeating a particular research results, and make sure all research results and key findings are backed up by evidence. Consistent formatting, and also clear transition from one section to another section. So the clearer it is, the better it is, in the sense that when you provide a narrative from introduction to research method to research result to limitations of research, it all links together. There is like a very clear story there. So keep it fluent in your sections, and also avoid extrapolating any description. And lastly, you can always cross-check with any further comment or remark under the section known as instruction for authors or author guidelines at the journal page. Can you use AI to support your manuscript? Yes, in terms of writing and improving the linguistic scenarios, these are the variety of AI that you could use. Also, some of the AI that can help you in your literature review and to check out your figures. It is recommended to also use a dictionary, and this is a very credible one available online at zero cost, free dictionary, where sometimes you could use the synonyms to paraphrase. DeepL is a translation tool, and sometimes it also offers some form of suggestion of how to write in the academic tone. And other than that, there are times where peer review or you have an editorial team whereby they are based at a country of first language is English, and the journal itself is more focused on the English regions. So because of that, there are times where the feedback may come across as your manuscript is accepted, but please send it for proofreading for the English. Now, under the TA, wonderfully, Malaysia has not yet received a lot of this feedback, which is great, because I think worldwide people know authors coming from Malaysia, we speak English fairly well. But here the situation might change if they find majority of your co-author, for example, just in case, if any of you start to experiment, oh, now I got TA in UTeM, but I also want to include a co-author from China, from India, from Nepal. You know, your co-author is coming from all these countries where the first language is not English, even though you are, they may still raise that request for you to get it proofread because your co-author did write some sections. So to solve this is that you can send your manuscript for proofreading services at Springer Nature. That is very recommended. Query service is free, but it will only provide you like 120 words abstract of where to improve. If you want a more detailed editing, that it will be at Springer Nature Editing Services, English language editing service, which will be very elaborate. It's a whole revamp on your manuscript, but there will be a cost incurred. What is the cost? I am not so certain, but it could go by the number of words, the number of alterations and amendments that is required. And but if you want the most easiest route, the easiest route is just get any co-author or any subject matter expert that would prove via email that they have proofread your manuscript and they are coming from a language department, meaning to say they are expert in language like English, Or you could get any professor or lecturer or researcher from Singapore, Australia, New Zealand, the neighboring country. Some of you may also have some questions about rejection. Why does it take so long? When I submit my manuscript, I hear nothing. So all these concerns are valid. And in fact, I just want to bring attention to the comment here, not the first posting, not the one below, yeah, the one on top, whereby this author say that his manuscript was rejected on the grounds that it wasn't within the scope of the journal. Yes, this is a very normal feedback by peer reviewer and editor. So one of the key thing is when you do prepare your manuscript, all you need to do is when you go to about this journal and you see the aim and scope, you could make sure that there are at least 50% of your manuscript in terms of writing, in terms of the sections, are linked to the aim and scope, to those descriptions. In fact, you can also copy some of the keywords being mentioned there. So for example, like just now I show you one of the call for paper was SDG 4, right? Quality education. So in your manuscript, try to put in the word quality education, for example. And another one is a concern that, oh, I submitted the Springer Nature 1.3 impact factor, but it was taking much longer than anticipated. The editor didn't come back to this person even after the normal time of 12 days. Normally, you will find the number of days, weeks, or months it takes for decision. It will be announced in the journal page. The cycle time, it will be that. But if your article takes much longer than average, there are many scenarios behind it. And one basic factor is that maybe there is no subject matter expert or peer reviewer available during the time you submitted or after to review the article. Unfortunately, there was no one available. So actually, a lot of you are very lucky. Now you still have the TA. It's September. If you go during Christmas time, and Ken, I also share with you now, I just reflected. My article, when I was a researcher, I submitted during New Year Eve. And I thought it was a proud achievement because I wanted to I wanted to submit it before the New Year happened. But little do I know myself is that, oh yeah, there is no one to review my paper because it's the New Year holidays, right? So if you know that, okay, it's the special season, it's a holiday season, Christmas, New Year, sometimes there are no people to read the paper and it might get pushed back or it might be delayed. And of course, there are also many other factors. Some tips also. Recently in June at Springer Nature, and this is an open access article, all of you have access to it, and I thought this is very useful to share. This article does not only apply if you're coming from the faculty of management. This article apply to any field you come from, because ideally the article is just giving you some tips or research finding that prove what makes the paper get rejected and what factors and criteria ensure that a paper get accepted. So here it says that accepted papers also feature robust data analysis, critical discussions, properly formatted citations, and meaningful contribution to the field. Very well put in summary, indeed. If your paper covers this criteria, it is very easy to get accepted. And if a paper even missed the criteria by a slight chance, like a simple thing like citation, let's say the citation is not in APA 7, or maybe this is a very common one. A lot of the literature review has been formatted or paraphrased from an AI platform. So some AI platform, they provide articles that does not exist at all, but you included those articles by accident in your reference list. Once this is detected by the peer reviewer or editor, they would not accept the paper. And sometimes there is no chance to edit at all because they found that there was something off. There's something off about the whole manuscript. So make sure the whole bibliography is accurate and your citation is also correct. Next is when you do have your manuscript all perfect, do prepare a cover letter. And this is indeed the exact recommended template published by Springer Nature website. You could go to the Springer Nature website, you will find this formatted cover letter. So ideally, the cover letter is just a half page or 1 page, not more than 1 page, to introduce yourself and your co-author and to narrow down what is the manuscript about, what is the value of the manuscript. So this cover letter would be a very great icebreaker between you and the editor-in-chief only. The cover letter would not go to the peer review, only the editor-in-chief. Some ethical considerations as well. When you are preparing the last section, the like limitations of research, acknowledgement section, credits, or disclosure section of your manuscript, it is recommended to highlight how did you conducted the research in overall, to give some form of evidence to the peer reviewer, to the editor, that your research were not just conducted with rigor analysis coming from you, but with honesty, with integrity, and with respect and good scientific conduct to any variables or environment that is considered. For example, if you're doing a laboratory research, you have considered certain protocols. You may share what protocols did you use, or framework for your literature review, for example. So please feel free to insert any similar key statement in this box. And this illustration and the keywords here has been approved and published by an internationally accredited body known as the UK Research Integrity Office. So you can use the terms here and you could try to show it in your manuscript. That will raise the value. And some ethics in handling your manuscript is that, firstly, submit one manuscript at a time. So some of you, I understand you have a timeline to meet, you want to publish quickly, but always wait for a decision from the first manuscript that you already have submitted. Then only you can proceed to the next step, whether you want to continue with the first journal you submitted or you want to submit to another journal. So avoid submitting the same paper at any journal or even at any platform. This also applies to when you want to upload your preprint online, like ResearchGate. So be very mindful of that. Next is ensure that your manuscript also has been approved by your institution if your institution has certain guidelines, standards, protocol. So depending on the scope or the complexity of your research. So for example, you conducted a survey, or you conducted a workshop, just make sure you get all the approval from UTeM itself to conduct the workshop, to conduct the survey, and then you inform them that you have included this in your paper to get published. Thirdly, no plagiarism, of course, by any no similarity or same research concept or research finding, more than 80% similarity online. But let's say if you have someone else in the field spontaneously doing the same thing, or they are also addressing the same research gap, research question, that may not mean it's plagiarism either, but that is also like a spontaneous scenario. So all you need to make sure is that the way the manuscript is being prepared, being written, the way the research result has come out is completely different from the other author. And but the safest way is that you can also cite. If the other author had already published, you can cite him or her. Or you could also mention in your manuscript that you have found that indeed your research gap has been an ongoing research agenda in that field, and you acknowledge that there is a presence of an ongoing research actively happening in that topic. And lastly, cross-check with any other available sources that maybe you may accidentally miss out online. So especially online repository or online database, where sometimes some parts of your manuscript may accidentally appear. So AI generated content, anything that is generated by AI, whether it's table, images, graph, illustrations, even word by word description, word by word, yeah, not allowed to be copied or transferred to a manuscript when that manuscript is being submitted for publication. It would be detected by our in-house tool, and somehow peer reviewer and editor will also utilize all their means to avoid any AI generated content. What you can do is using AI to support your analysis, to run your data, to analyze your data, and then based on those analysis, you write the manuscript outcome, or you write the manuscript yourself, and you come up with the graph and chart yourself. Secondly is you can also declare, maybe some of you are coming from the technology, engineering, or computer science. And yes, we still have papers that is containing AI generated content, but for the sake of what that research scope is about. Meaning to say, if your research in fact is about AI, your research is about using AI or identifying certain variables regarding AI, and you really can't run away from the data or research output generated from AI, then yes, you have the scientific justification that you have to include it. However, you need to declare. You cannot simply just still copy and paste, but not acknowledging that presence of what tool or program you have used. Because that is what science is about as well. Like in Springer Nature, it's also about advancing discovery. So manuscripts that are published is intended to be replicable. So for other researchers to be able to replicate your research in AI, please declare and also let them know what program, what software that you use. Lastly, disclose any conflict of interest. If you know that, oh, in the journal, I see someone I know, perhaps you can disclose early to the editor, just in case. Or if you have a conflict of interest with a particular sample size of your participants in your survey, so make sure you declare and disclose in your research paper. Some tips when submitting your manuscript. Just want to do a time check because I know we are running a bit late, 4:14. I'll go as quickly as I can. All these slides, here you see a slide whether it's worldwide or locally, because some journals are just focused on international audience or specific regions. Then some journal is focused on a specialized subject or a more broad focused subject like medicine and cancer. Then you also have some journals which is behind a paywall, and like what Ken has mentioned open access. So you have to consider all these aspects. Why? Because it's not just impacting you in terms of how it will affect your impact factor or your performance. But ideally, you want your paper to be read, to be downloaded, to be cited, to be easily reachable by the audience worldwide. So this is why the TA now gives you that best opportunity to publish in OA, where it solves all the equations, but you can also consider all other avenues that suits you the best. Next is using this template. I will not elaborate due to the time, but it's very straightforward enough. Just bear in mind, you could use this template to kickstart your abstract writing. Admittingly, I must admit, I tried this myself as well as a writer. I always find this template working well. It always structures the abstract soundly, and paper always get accepted based on that abstract by at least 90%. So 90% acceptance. And also that also gives you that better confidence. You don't really have to rely on AI to summarize your paper to generate an abstract. Why? Because another tip is that when you upload your whole manuscript into an AI platform and asking it to summarize, that may causes some risk because your manuscript has been uploaded into a open base AI platform, which you do not know where did your manuscript was saved or where the repository is, whether it's even secured, right? So to be safe, it's okay to do the summary yourself and to follow this template. Also know the editorial policies. You can find it under the journal section for more information and to know what the expectations are and to be familiar with any senior editor or very senior subject matter expert involved in a journal. Nevertheless, even if they're senior, but maybe they just got offered the position as a editorial board, meaning to say if you've just found out that you did some investigation, oh, this editor-in-chief or this committee board in this journal, it was announced in their university website or in the Springer Nature website that they just joined. That's a very good indication to submit because they also have KPI to meet. They are more inclined to read as much manuscripts actively. And in terms of approval, they are a bit, I would say, to be honest, in between the publisher side and editorial side, they are a bit more open-minded. I wouldn't say lenient, but open-minded when it comes to reading the manuscript and moving it for publication. How to deal with post-review? Always make sure you fulfill the deadline that is mentioned by editor and peer review. Never exceed it. And even if you know early that you could not meet the deadline to do the edits, please inform them early. And please jot down and highlight those sections in the manuscript where you have amended because that makes them very happy. If there's a rejection, move to the next pole like the fisherman here. Always be patient and resilient like this Nobel Prize scientist who had got 50 rejections for the same research article, but eventually that same research article got published and he still won the Nobel Prize. So he's a Dr. Geim, who is the founder of Graphene. Next is under the TA, if there's any challenges, okay, you can inform the chief editor first, right? Because chief editor, they know that they had accepted your manuscript. They don't know what's happening behind the approval system, like what Ken has mentioned, or they don't know the criteria that has been shared under the approval system for the TA option that you have chosen. So all you need to do is just inform them your manuscript has been going through the TA approval system, but there was some decision made, and now you need their support to move that manuscript for publication. And you can ask them for their advice, and sometimes they would have specific resources or recommendation to help you. Next is please inform all your other co-authors as well. Anyone who's involved in the paper, update them about the situation and try to navigate other solutions. So TA is not just happening at your university, it's happening Malaysia worldwide with other 19 institutions with quota as well. And they are also recommended to collaborate. So here we're talking about collaboration, right? So if your institution itself in UTeM have grants you the permission, you can continue to collaborate with other institutions. Then you could try to navigate the co-author, whether he can be the corresponding author and take up that funding obligation, whether using his research grant or using any TA quota that they might have. Next is some journals may get recommendation to be transferred to another journal, transfer desk. But in this slide, it would be coming from the editor itself and from the transfer desk team. It would not come from peer review, or neither it would come if you ask directly. So what you need to do is, number one, if your manuscript get rejected, you can ask the editor-in-chief first, can your manuscript be considered to be transferred to another journal through Springer Nature Transfer Desk, and can you please raise the report? So editor-in-chief can do it for you. On the other hand, you can try to reach out to the transfer desk team at the website, but that will take a very lengthy process. So go back to the main editor-in-chief like here, so that they could work together with the in-house team to see where else your journal can be reviewed again and reconsidered for publishing. This section shows you some parts of how to enhance your skill, enhance your profile, and this section shares whether outside of the TA, can your APC get supported else in another method? Only to some extent. If your corresponding author or co-author comes from a low-income country classified in the World Bank, there will be some discount or APC waiver. Apologies, we don't have the full structure of the fee of the waiver. That will be subject to the decision of the editorial board and to the financing side of the Springer Nature. But we know that there is this avenue that is provided for authors coming from low-income economy. And of course, you can appeal. There are some cases you can also appeal to the editor to be waived off, or to get some form of criteria that can allows you to not commit fully to the APC. There are also some other journals, but you have to investigate yourself because this benefit is kept fairly to worldwide researchers, and is given based on the fact that they have to try to navigate themselves in the Springer Nature Link platform and find those journals which are really no cost at all. Some journals, they are like here, what it says, APC does not apply. So there is no APC fee. And of course, you could use other grants that you can find in Malaysia or internationally. So to close this session, some submission tips, slightly different from the AAS system, approval system. What you need to bear in mind is once you find the journal that you want to submit and you click submit a manuscript, for example, in the journal page, it will prompt you to log in or to authenticate your account known as editorial manager. So make sure you set up this account by registering it. Register now for your editorial manager account. And after you register, make sure you update the information so that the login and password works well in that system. And after you update, you log in again using that username and password. Continue to browse that same system and then they will prompt you to insert all the details regarding your manuscript. It will be like in like this format, this blue section here, you see the tabs. So you have to click on every tabs to fill in the information before you click submit the manuscript. And you have to also upload your manuscript and cover letter. At the end of your tab, you also have to accept the policies and terms regarding OA. So that's it. This is a QR code to share feedback, and you can also do the survey or the form after this session at your free time. Thank you. I will take up any questions if there is.
Thanks, Shen. Okay, so let's open up to the group. Of course, we are, conscious of time, but if would anyone like to ask a question, type it in the chat, or just feel free to unmute yourself. I think that could also be faster. So we're gonna leave for 5 to 10 minutes for anyone, and at the same time, please also scan the QR code on the screen to leave us some feedback as well. So Shen will share the slides with the library after this, and they can help us to distribute it to those who have attended today.
Thank you. Thank you for the comment, Doctor.
Any questions from the library? Boleh saya tanya? One has Lisa. Semua okay? Is there anything you would like us to emphasize one more time before we end? From the library's perspective. Oh,
Yeah, I think
sorry,
there's
that's a
one question.
I can take that question.
Okay, yes.
So can you update the affiliation and names of the authors once the manuscript has been accepted? Yes, you can. You can do so, and you actually will be asked to do so, particularly the corresponding author. In fact, throughout any part of the process, up until the point that the article has been published online, you can actually amend the affiliation. Of course, it is a lot easier to do it while it's still during the peer review stage, because the profile that Shen has asked you to create, within that system, you can actually actively change it at any time whilst you still have access to it. It is only a little bit more tricky after the editorial acceptance. So like in some of the slides that I have showed you, where after you have received editorial acceptance and you got that formal notification, that's when they ask you to confirm your affiliation again. You can do that for yourself, no problem. But for the corresponding authors for the other authors within your list, that might be a bit tricky. But you can access to something what we call oa.verifications.com, or if you're in touch with, again, the editors from the journal, always feel free to write to them. It's a bit tricky, so a bit back and forth. A lot of emails are involved once it's past the editorial stage. But if you're still within the editorial stage, then within the profile that you created in the submission system, you can edit from there. Okay. Message from the library for CPD. Laman staff, Laman Hikmah library will generate and claim attendance based on the MS Teams record, just for everybody's record. And then a follow-up comment from Dr. Najma. Because my co-author's data is not correct, I got the final reviews. Yes. So if you're not satisfied with some of the information, up to the point that it goes online, you actually still have the chance to buat pertukaran lah. So maybe a little bit messy, but it is totally possible. Okay, any other questions? So one last thing to point out, the TAs are active as of May 2025. There is still an unutilized 2 more quotas left for 2025. Yes. Please maximize this opportunity. I think you will benefit immensely, and not just being able to get the APCs covered by the university or by the ministry, but also your articles being published as open access. I'm sure will go a long way in your accreditation and your for advancement of your career and your profile as well. So with that said, we would like to thank you on behalf of myself and Shen, for all of us at Springer Nature. We look forward to welcoming you into our family of otters moving forward. If you've not already done so, hopefully today's session will have given you lots of insight. We apologize for um, anything might have said wrongly. And of course, if you'd like to clarify on time, please feel free to do so. You can contact the library, the organizer to this event, and they will reach out to us. And if nothing else said, we would like to hand the session over back to the library. Terima kasih. Jumpa lagi.
Okay.
Bye everyone. Good
Bye.
luck. Take care.
Bye.
Wish you all the
Okay.
Bye.
best.
Bye.